Good morning, CHD. It is Thursday, the 11th of December, 2025. Welcome to Financial Rebellion. We are live at CHD TV this morning. Good morning, Carolyn. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning. Good morning, Polly.
I'm excited that we've got our very wonderful guest, Renette Senham, coming back on again this week. So we're going to do the headlines and then we're going to bring her on to educate us yet again. All right, let's get the first headline up, please, Lou. Okay, this is breaking. I have submitted an amendment to add a central bank digital currency known as CBDC. Ban to the National Defense Authorization Act. Promises were broken to include this language in the NDAA. My amendment would fix the bill. So, what's that about?
This is a major story. A group of congressmen were promised by Speaker Johnson that they would codify the president's executive order to outlaw central bank digital currency, and they would do it by including it in the National Defense Authorization Act, which authorizes $900 billion, including almost $1 billion for the Ukraine. And the speaker reneged. And so one of the representatives put an amendment. The tweet we just looked at is his description. It was rejected. And I will be absolutely frank. What this means is the White House and the Speaker of the House do not want to outlaw CBDC. They are absolutely leaving their options open to implement a CBDC. Which means they're doing the bidding of the central bank. And if you look at what they've done with the Genius Act or what they're currently working on in terms of Senate negotiation on the House Clarity Act, they have not, as of yet, made any effort to outlaw programmable money and the mandates of programmable money. And this is at the very heart of the control grid and so important. And it's one of the reasons that Renette and Twyla are going to continue to join us regularly here on Financial Rebellion, because this must be stopped. And there are three important pieces. One is the programmable money, including CBDC. One is the digital ID. And of course, the other is the local hardware infrastructure that we're going to be talking about today. These things must be stopped. We cannot permit this. And it's a coup d'etat, and it's the end of human liberty. So this is extremely important, and what it proves is there is no appetite in this administration to stop the control grid. Quite the contrary. We have a great collection at Solari that we update every week on the extent to which the current administration, the federal government, and the Congress are building the control grid. So, check it out. We update it every week, but this is very, very bad news coming from Congress, because they were promised that it would be outlawed.
Yeah.
And we have lots of materials in our notes. So if you're interested in all this and want to know more details, then they're taking over, which, is the bottom line. We've got all sorts of materials in the.
Well, Catherine's saying, well, part of being, if you're interested in it, everybody has to get off of the.
You have to act. And one of the things we keep talking about is, and we're going to talk about what you can do to stop the local hardware infrastructure. Use cash. Not use cash, get everybody using cash or coin. Do not, walk away from the digital systems. Radically increase the market share of cash, make a huge difference.
Yeah, okay. Next one, please, Lou. All right, this is interesting. Australia to enforce social media age limit of 16 next week with fines up to $33 million. What does that mean?
So Australia is often in the lead in the Commonwealth for implementing control grid. They're sort of the early prototypers. And we've seen various excuses for trying to institute a digital ID. One has been immigration, another is election fraud. But the thing that lately seems to be most settled on is the idea of protecting children, which is ridiculous, because all you're doing is creating a control grid where the people who've done the worst things to children imaginable, will end up having more power. So it's a very clever inversion. But Australia has literally come out and said, no, nobody on the internet without age verification, because of course to verify that you're not under 16, everybody's got to have, and it's using biometrics to do it. So and this system, they say they're not keeping the information, they're flushing it, but these systems create databases that are totally insecure. If you look at the history of government databases being hacked and manipulated and misused, I can't imagine a worse record cybersecurity. So this is exceptionally dangerous. Don't be fooled that this is going to protect children. The people who are going to use this to build central control are the ones who've been doing all the terrible things for children, including poisoning them with vaccines. So don't fall for this trap. And unfortunately, let's hope that this effort by Australia fails.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, next, please, Lou. Right, this is Mark Nixon. Breaking: Canada signs deal with the EU to make digital IDs interoperable across borders.
Right. And that's the danger. They're trying to make the digital IDs a global digital ID so you can have global central control. And so this is a perfect example. Canada just signed a deal with the EU to integrate. And that's one of the things we've been talking with Twyla about why it's so important not to create one central database that can be interoperable globally with all the others. And here's a perfect example.
It seems like, just reading these headlines, that things are happening quite fast. I mean, and people need to really understand that this is urgent.
Right. And they need to understand the current administration is helping them go fast, not stopping it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Clearly, they were planning this before he was reelected. I mean,
if you look at Lou, maybe if you could bring up our digital control grid collection. If you look at the speed, I had said last year that I thought that Trump was being put in by the bankers to implement the control grid, but I never thought that they would go as fast as they do. And if you look at this checklist of the actions to date, Carolyn's right. They clearly had their game plan all set up and ready to go before the inauguration.
Okay. Next, please, Lou. It's a Defender article. Checkmate. US Supreme Court delivers huge win for religious exemptions.
Yay, good news. Good news.
yes, although I will just point out, which a number of other lawyers have, what the Supreme Court didn't actually change the law. They remanded the case to the Second Circuit basically to do what was consistent with the ruling, which is that they can't ignore religious exemptions. So
Yeah.
Presumably it will ultimately be law. And we hope that this will affect California too, which is not respecting religious exemptions either.
Right.
And we have an interview with Sasha Latipova and Ray Flores discussing the details. Oh, that's actually, take it back. That's on the petition. But
yeah, that's on the petition. But we can talk about that. I mean, there's a headline, I think, for that as well. I think most of you saw Ray on with Michael Caine on Tuesday. Oh no, yesterday, Wednesday. Apologise. So CHD, it's Children's Health Defence, asks FDA to revoke COVID vaccine license, calls on the public to submit hundreds of thousands of comments. So this is Children's Health Defence asking the FDA to revoke the licenses for all Pfizer, BioNTech and Moderna COVID-19 vaccines. So this was Monday. Children's Health Defence filed a citizen petition with the FDA. It's urging the public, including healthcare workers, parents and military members, to submit comments on the petition. And I do understand from Ray that this is doing really well already.
And there's
That's
a
wonderful.
put in your comments, right?
I didn't hear you. What did you say?
There's a link to put in your comments.
Yeah, apparently. It's in the show notes. Thank you, Lou. Okay, in the show notes is a link, so please use that and everybody get involved.
So this is important because if you are at HHS or the FDA or the CDC, the more you can point to grassroots growing support for you to take action, it supports them, particularly in Congress. So this is something you want to do.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, one more headline. Let's do it. Tell Congress reject 6-cell tower bills. This is, I don't think this is a Defender. What is this? Looks like Defender writing. Our EMR department. Okay, so I don't know.
And it's hard to find from the main website, so use our link. It went out by email.
So you want to describe this, Carolyn?
Yes. I mean, it's a way of protesting through Children's Health Defense. This is what we're talking about. There are 6 telecom bills that have gone from the subcommittee, and it's now reported to the main committee that covers this in the House. The Senate has not taken any action yet, but we would like to stop it at the committee level before it goes before the entire Congress. And so this is a way to register your displeasure with these 6 bills. We talked about it last week. We're going to talk about it more this week. It's basically doing away with local power to turn down applications for cell towers. And doing away with health considerations. Well, that's already a fact in the current bill, the current law, but also doing away with environmental review and other locally required, also, for example, historic preservation. They could theoretically put a cell tower up on the Lincoln Memorial or whatever. So there are actually 6 bills. There's one main bill that, at least I believe it's 2289, but there are actually 6 different bills, and we need to oppose all of them because it's basically taking away local control.
I think this is the perfect time to bring on our guest to explain.
Yes.
She's the expert. Good morning, Manette. How are you? Thank you for coming back.
Thank you. It's a privilege to be here. Thank you, ladies.
And correct anything I said that was wrong.
No, you were spot on. So what I'll do is just give a brief overview. So we got wind a few weeks ago, the FCC was putting out proposed rule changes that was going to destroy local authority as we know it. And for years, we have been fighting against cell towers with just a few threads of protection. And I guess the telecoms don't like that because they have their insiders as our FCC commissioners, and they've convinced them to destroy those few threads of protection. So the FCC came out with these proposed rule changes, and as Carolyn was saying, it destroys any notification to the public, any setbacks, public right-of-way. So that means they can put cell towers, antennas, all their cables and so on your sidewalks, on your streets. They can have them as high as they want, and there's nothing you can do about it. And there's no fall zone to consider, like if the cell tower falls over, which happens quite often. There's no consideration of churches, parks, schools, any of this, hospitals, none of this. And not only can they put these antennas on your light or lamp posts, they can put them on buildings. They can put them anywhere they want to. And they want to have them at least every 400 feet, if not shorter distance, according to how well the frequencies travel. So this was extraordinarily shocking to us. And there's a multitude of reasons, which I'll get into. So what happened, though, which is shocking, was that 2 weeks later, here comes Congress, as again what Carolyn was mentioning earlier, and they have their subcommittee saying, oh, by the way, we're going to mirror essentially what the FCC is proposing through these 6 bills. And the biggest one, of course, is the HR 2289. And that one by far is the worst of the bills, the American Broadband Deployment Act. And that is essentially is Congress, and the administration saying, we just want small government out of the way, big industry is here to stay, and it opens up a Pandora's box that destroys local control unlike I've ever seen. Never seen anything like this. So this went through the subcommittee, they marked it up, it went back, they voted on it, now it's going to go for a full vote to the Congress, and then it'll go to the Senate and then signed by the president. So we're trying to stop this, and cut it off at the pass. And it is so egregious, and what's really upsetting is that in 2021, Environmental Health Trust versus the FCC, they said, look at this 1996 Telecommunication Act. It was based upon 1970s, 80s studies as well as products. And you need to update and look at these studies. You need to look at the products, and you have to reevaluate and update your 1996 Telecommunication Act. Well, so they told FCC to do that. They did not give them any hard deadlines. There was no teeth to this. And we're, 4 years later, and not only have they not reviewed anything, not only have they not done anything, but they've now dug their heels in and said, you know what, not only are we going to ignore the DC court order, but what we're going to do is we're going to make sure we destroy any and all semblance of local control, and the few things that the communities can do, the bit of say they have, we're going to evaporate that as well. This is, as Catherine was saying, this is a coup d'etat. This is a coup through regulation to destroy local government as we know it. So we are asking people to sign these petitions. We're asking people now, we do have, there is for the FCC, you can actually, there's a 30-day comment period until December 30th. And then after that, they have 15 days of responses to the public comment and so on. So we really encourage people, and I know we have the link, please sign your petition, fill out the public comment, respond to this right away. We want to do this earlier than later. And again, we want to have hundreds of thousands of people, because this is not just about cell towers. This is about the destruction of local government as you know it. Now, the one good thing though we have, which was kind of a surprising thing, is we got word that Senator Ted Cruz, who is the chairman of the Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation, announced a full committee will convene for a hearing on December 17th. This is 10 a.m. Eastern, I believe. And this is to conduct oversight of the Federal Communication Commission. So
10 o'clock, 9 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Central.
Oh, thank you. Oh gosh, I have 10 a.m. Eastern, but please let's check that and make sure the information we have below is correct. So nonetheless, I believe what's happening is because the California League of Cities, the National League of Cities, mayors associations are contacting the government saying, what are you doing? You're literally destroying us with these bills and the FCC proposed rule changes. It has to be just billowing throughout Congress and the Senate. So they're looking into it. And so what we need is for people to tap in beforehand, contact Senator Cruz and let him know you have got to stop this in its tracks. It's treasonous, folks. There's no other word for it. It's treasonous. We have federal government attacking local government and trying to destroy it through these bills.
And I want to just point out they're doing this with the AI regulation. They're trying to override and make it so the state and local government cannot stop the data centers or the application of AI, which is completely, you're just tearing up the Constitution completely.
Yes.
Do you know what I would really love you to do, Annette? And I make Catherine do this sometimes, but it's really important. Can you tell people what will happen if they do nothing?
If you do nothing on the 30,000 foot level, you are opening up your community, whether you're urban or rural, to big business. And this is not just about the telecoms. This is also, they also have a set of bills for energy production. So you're going to have pipes, you're going to have pumps, you're going to have processes going on in your community, manufacturing industries. You're opening up your community to big industry, and there is
Well, but they're going to override your zoning.
Oh yeah, there's no.
They are going to take your water.
Your
So
water,
big business
your
will
land.
have priority to your water and to your land above any of your property rights or any of your local, state and local laws.
Right. And environmental concerns, forget about it. Indigenous, forget about it. Cultural heritage sites, forget about it. Even being notified of these things are happening, forget about it. I can't tell you, this is literally the most dangerous set of bills and proposed changes I've ever seen in my life. So.
Well, and they're also talking about opening up new spectrums and installing 6G, and that's what they'll use they'll surveil. We don't need 6G or even 5G for our cell phones.
But let's talk about this infrastructure.
Right.
You're talking about building a local infrastructure between the towers and the data centers and AI. That is the delivery mechanism for the control grid. So it's both surveillance, but it's also the ability to track and turn off your money and do programmable money. And it comes with a health effect. We know that EMF radiation can be very, very harmful to your health. You combine a tower every 400 feet with 6G and the resulting EMF radiation, and we're talking about serious health consequences when combined with the other things that are going on that are harming our health. I would point out, I just got back from 2.5 months traveling in the United States. And one of the reasons I was delighted to get back to Europe was the EMF radiation feels much less here. I mean, when I was in the United States, the whole time I felt like my head was in a vise, other than when I was in the very rural areas. It was horrible. The airports, oh my God. I mean, you almost have to take a painkiller to go through the airports. It's It's
Well,
very invasive.
and I want to add too, it's so bad for us adults. It's worse for the children. It's worse for the unborn, and it
Right.
will absolutely obliterate the pollinator population, birds, wildlife. And it's not just the antennas they want to put every 400 feet, if even less. But then what we've talked about before is that there's this big bait and switch with the telecoms where we've been paying a surcharge on our phone bills for a couple decades to get hardwired broadband to every single house in America. And instead, they're going down your street and then they're like, oh, now we're going to give you 5G, no, be 4G to emanate into your home. So it's a
Right. It's a
extraordinary.
surveillance. It's a very, your home is not your castle.
That's right. And
And
so
the FCC regs, I believe, involve ripping out the copper wiring that we paid for through our local phone bills. And that gives the telecom companies jurisdiction. If you're going to do everything wireless, they have the right to the spectrum. So they want to rip out anything that they wouldn't have control over because they don't have control over the local lines.
no, no. And there's a lot of different ways that they're coming after the copper lines. They make sure they don't get fixed. They make sure they crack. They just tell you they're turning off, your service. I mean, we have that happening right now to a friend of ours, and they're not going through the correct Public Utility Commission processes as they should. So there's a lot of different ways around the law, and it's through even just like permitting and so on. So it's really deceptive, and people don't realize that what we've been trying to explain is that once they clear this blockage, which is local control, that framework has been put out. They put it out during COVID. They were laying out the broadband from pole to pole while we were sleeping across not just the country, but the world. And now all they need to do is just attach those antennas. And once those antennas go up, once those towers go up, it's extraordinarily rare that they ever come down through legal means.
Right. And I just want to jump in because I'll be the bad guy here. So we had a fabulous interview on the Salary Report this year called Neurowarfare. And then we have Josh Dahlman doing something on cognitive liberty. And when you have this kind of invasive wireless technology, this is in fact what not only collects data, on surveillance, but can engage in neurowarfare. It's done with wireless technology. So if you think the propaganda is bad, wait till you have this infrastructure in place. And it can be quite invasive in terms of trying to push people's moods to the right or to the left.
Correct.
I mean, this is all documented.
Right.
Right.
And so people always ask, what can I do? First thing you can do is you start with your own home. You start with your own devices. Like I'm making a very concerted effort to find, a cell service that is not AT&T or Verizon. Why am I paying money to the devil? We're looking for a phone that does not track you or surveil you. They have phones like this now. The other thing is, for those of you who have not yet learned how to turn off your modem, turn it off when you're not using it. Turn it off at nighttime, especially when you need to have restored.
Or use wire. Use wire if you can.
Well, if you can, if
and
it's this, yes, if you can.
some of my modem that is provided by my fiber optics, which is the best, fiber optics is what you want to go with, but it does not turn off the wireless even if I run a wire from my modem to my computer. So you might have to buy, and you'll have to talk to somebody who really understands how this works in selecting a replacement. But you want to buy one that you can turn off the wireless so that you're just using it wired.
Correct. Correct. Well, we have one like that too at our cabin where you cannot turn it off. So what we do is, I kid you not, we have like a little organite by our modem. We turn it on. My partner and I will use it. We'll make our calls. We do our texting, our emailing, and so on. And we even have EMF shielding shawls and scarves to put around us because she's also have hyperthyroidism, so she has to be extra careful. And once we're done, we turn it off. We turn it off, and that's the best you can do. So we only turn on at specific moments, and then we turn it off as soon as we're done. But here I'm Etherneted in, and I don't have Wi-Fi. So my point is this, folks: your home is your castle. That's where you have to reverse engineer your way out of this digital cage. Many people have done this, and then you start looking at the products and the services that you are actually purchasing, and stop feeding that beast.
Right.
And are there people that can help you hardwire your house and stuff? I'm thinking now particularly of families with autistic children and adults who sadly are addicted to videos and the computer, the internet.
So, Paula, you can hire EMF experts to come in and do a complete review of your home and figure out how you can dramatically reduce the EMF radiation in your home. And I would think for autistic children, that is so important.
It is, but also they're so addicted, and I know it's bad, but I know that some mothers just can't actually cope with life without it. That's the problem we've got. It's a terrible situation. I just want to say that.
Renette, when we're talking about commenting on the FCC regs, which is a good idea, contacting your state, your federal representatives, but you are someone who's been a mayor of a local town. I don't know whether it's a village or a city or whatever, but isn't and we have local in Ohio, it's called the PUCO, the Public Utility Commission of Ohio. Aren't there things that people can do at the local level to get the local representatives, the mayors, the city councilmen, to take action and speak up in connection with these proposals?
100%. In fact, we're doing something this evening at my city council, and I've not been on the council for 5 years. So most of our council members, county supervisors across the country have no idea this is going on. And what's really important is to let them know this is not just about radio frequencies and cell tower deployment, because many of them don't care about that. But when you say, by the way, you as a representative are going to lose all of your power and control and say to big industry, and you are going to be in the crosshairs. There's no stopping it. There's no lawsuits. There's no court battles. And you're going to be hearing these complaints and cries for help from your constituents, and you're going to be powerless. So what we're doing is it's a flash mobilization this evening. We're showing up. We're going to tell our city council members, give them the story of FCC, the court case, what Congress is trying to do, how this is a coup d'etat. They're going to be in the crosshairs of this, and we're giving them a resolution that says, okay, whereas, we don't want the FCC to make these changes, we want Congress to stop this coup, and here's the letter template to send to your congressman, here's the letter template to send to your senator. And we are using a bit of artistic flair for this performance art piece to grab attention, and we're filming it and pushing out to everyone else as an example. This is how you do it. Here are the templates. Here are the scripts. And we have 3 people speaking on behalf of everyone else who's sitting there, silenced, as we've been silenced since 1996.
Now, Renette, can you put that in the notes?
Happy to.
Those templates? Yeah.
Yeah, happy to. So do we want to talk about data centers?
Yes.
Okay.
Tell us about data centers and this new wonderful manual.
So data centers are popping up everywhere. Incredible. They're huge. They're gigantic. And we've had 13 successes across the United States where communities have been able to fight back. And you're more in like the valleys, low-lying areas. This is more likely where you're going to see the data centers because that's where the water is. And it's destroying the community, the tax base, the school system, water, environment, jobs, a lot of false promises that never transpire. And so there is a new toolbook that is come out, and it's the North Star Data Center Policy Toolkit. Again, the link for that will be down below. And this is for state and local policy interventions to stop rampant AI data center expansion. And so it really gets into a lot of the details of what to do and what to consider. It's really important, folks, that you get ahead of the curve on this. And even if you do not have the threat right now of data center, if you are in more of the low-lying areas, the valleys and so on, the farmland, open space, especially with water, you're at a great risk. And this is where it's really important to run for your local elected positions, because having a vote at that city council table, having influence over your staff is absolutely critical. You have a lot more power than a voter on the outside. I can speak to that from personal experience. And so what you need to do is actually consider, like, at what level of government, suits the intervention, like what are your weaknesses, what are your strengths, and so on. And so what this toolkit does is it gives you a laundry list of like prohibitions and restrictions and moratoriums you can put in place to make it less attractive for a data AI center to show up on your doorstep. Then it also shows you at a state level what you can also do. Now,
so let me just stop you for a second. In corporations, there's something called a poison pill. that a corporation can put into place that makes it much harder to take it over with a hostile takeover.
Yeah.
So essentially what you're describing is there's a great many things a municipality can do now to basically build their immunity with the equivalent of a municipal poison pill. Is that correct?
Correct. And I'm going to give you a very simple example, and then we're going to get into like how does somebody even go about this? Where do you even start? Back in the early 80s here in Nevada City, California, we were really getting threatened by chain stores. And what was really important to us was to keep our mom and pop shops and to keep our local tax base, keep our tax revenue in our town. And there's nothing we could do about it. It's the Commerce Clause. If a business wanted to open up, you could not stop it. So our leaders at that time were quite brilliant. And what they did was they looked at planning, right? The planning department said, okay, what can we put in place? What poison pill can we design to disenfranchise a big chain to come in here? What they did was they said, okay, so as far as your signs on the outside of your business, your store or your restaurant, no logos are allowed. Well, guess what? McDonald's wants you to see their golden arches. They're like, no, 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 you can't do that. You can have a hamburger and some French fries, or if you're a hat store, you can show a hat, but you can't show your logo. Well, guess what? Here we are now, 2025. We've had one chain store come in called Beach Hut Deli. They came in and they're gone in 2 years. Like, we don't care. Our logo's not that popular. People don't recognize it. So they came in and they were gone in 2 years. That prevented from every chain store that was knocking on our door in the 80s and 90s, that prevented them from coming in.
That is so clever.
That was the poison pill.
Uh-huh.
So this is what's really, really important, folks. It's absolutely critical that you understand your planning and your city. You go to the meetings and you look at the agendas. You need at least 1 to 2 people always looking at the agendas when they're posted. Every 2 weeks. You've got to have someone who's looking for the cell tower applications, for the AI data centers, their applications. Someone's got to be there so you notify your community immediately. But before you do that, there's other things that you can do. And I also really encourage people, because I've been seeing something that's quite dangerous over the last few years since COVID, is we have lost our historical knowledge, our legacy, our institutional knowledge of our cities. And what I mean by that is a lot of our planners and our engineers and our architects and so on, who've been part of the city construct for decades, are retiring and leaving. And now in Nevada City, everyone is new. We've lost our institutional memory. So it's important, while you still have those individuals living in your community and they're alive, to talk to them and say, hey, what did you do with this? Where is that? How did this come down? Get that institutional memory and videotape it, write it down, because it's extraordinarily valuable. I have learned so much from our retired city engineer. He feeds me the best information. If I went to City Hall, folks, nobody can answer the questions that he answers.
So, Renette, is it possible for a community to get together and form, call it a membership association? Everybody pays $1 a week, and that pays for somebody to go cover all these meetings and report.
Absolutely. I mean, you can do that. It's always nice to get paid, or you can just do it. And the truth of the matter is, most of these meetings are on Zoom calls. I mean, they're being Zoomed, so you can watch them live in your own living room. So you can even you can always have a different person every meeting, like several people doing it, so it's not too taxing.
Right, but I find the problem is, volunteer things ultimately sort of fall down.
Yeah.
But if we can all chip in a little bit and pay somebody to really be on it.
Make it their job.
Right. Make it their job.
I think it's a great idea, and a little bit goes a long way. And if they're getting paid for the 2-3 hours of doing this, it's very, very helpful. People like to have a little extra income.
Well, also, you would be surprised what the effect of taking 3 or 4 people to public meetings. They 3 or 4 people. I've heard comments from city council members or whatever. We got to pay attention to this. We had 3 people come watch our hearing. So just the body count is really important, and just regularly go to the various city council or township meetings.
It makes them very uncomfortable that people are watching them. And ever since we started live streaming our meetings, the population in the chambers is completely just flattened, which is a shame, because it doesn't put the pressure on them. They can't see the eyes on them, which is really quite awful. So we've lost that engagement, which has been a great disservice. Now, One of the things I want to say that's really, really important is people get very intimidated by this, and you really just need a small handful of people to go out there and kick butt. And one of the things that we employed as a city every 6 months was a SWOT analysis. We had a facilitator come in, we sat down, planning, staff, city council, police, fire. We sat down there and we do this SWOT analysis, which is SWOT. And that was, we would look at our strengths, we would look at our weaknesses, we look at our opportunities and our threats. We also did this a few years ago as a group of people who came together during COVID. We all formed together. We were not really friends before COVID. And we did our own SWOT analysis on a personal front, as a household, and as a group of people. What do we have? What don't we? And so when you look at a SWOT, the strengths is like the internal positives, like as a city, let's say, for instance, what are our strengths, right? Like, what do we have going for us? Like, we've got a great tax base. We've got, engaged citizenry. Our city council members are representing their constituents. But then you have to look at the weaknesses. Like, what are the internal weaknesses, right? We're losing our sales tax base. We have a city council that does not represent us. We've been completely infiltrated from the outside. You've got to look at these things. And then opportunities are the external positives. We have like money flow coming in, grants. We've got more businesses opening up. We have, more housing development going on. And there's then also the threats. That's the T in the SWOT. And that's the external negatives. And so it's really important that you have just even a group of people. If you can't get the city to do this, you get a group of people to do it for the city itself. And if you're talking about AI data centers, you would actually look through that lens specifically. Okay, like, what are the internal strengths, the positives to our city, knowing this AI data center is coming in here? We have city council members that are going to fight back. They're going to educate us. They're going to keep us informed. Or it might be an internal, a weakness, which is an internal negative of, our city council members don't have any regulations on the book to protect us. We've got to get ahead of this right now. We've got to, get the masses going, and then the opportunities, which might be, we've already, put the poison pill in there, and we just need to go out there and keep pushing that towards the front. And then, of course, the threats, which are the external negatives, which is we haven't done anything. And
let me just bring up one thing that I think makes a SWOT much more powerful.
Sure.
And that is, you need to map out the money on two things. You need to map out the money on who's financing the data center, where's the money coming from, who are the investors. That's number one. And who's making money on this. You need to understand locally who's making money, how they're making money. I call it how the money works. You need to map out the financial ecosystem, and you'll discover two things. One is that, it may be your state pension fund who's financing this company to do this, and you have the ability to go to the state pension fund, or it could be a local foundation and say, why are you financing this? You could look at everybody's 401k and discover, oh, we're financing this. So you need to get into where are the opportunities to shift the financing and to affect the financing chain. That's number one. But number two, if you want to get leverage in the political process, you need to know how the money works. If it turns out that the local sponsor or the local councilman who's really pushing this project, has an investment in a company that's going to make money on this, you want to dig that out and bring transparency to that, because oftentimes people are pushing because they're going to make money, and it can be very indirect how they're making money. And you want to find out. The last thing I will say is I've seen many people get a change in the local decision making because they, let's say the school board is doing something they don't like. They do an audit of the school board's books, asymmetrical warfare, and they find out they're doing something dirty someplace else. And the next thing you know, that's how they get rid of the school board members who aren't voting for what they want. So I don't see how you get something really powerful done unless you're willing to sit down and map out the money. And I think that's a very important part of the SWOT process.
I totally agree. Absolutely. And I also would encourage that earlier than later, you do FOIAs and public records.
Yes.
And you start seeing what kind of communication, which we've done with our cell towers and cell tower applications, and we have seen things. And the other thing is too, it's really helpful, folks, to there's a strategy you can do, but it's really helpful to try to find somebody within City Hall or your county government that is a friend that can feed you information. We've actually had individuals feed us information that we did not get in our public records requests. So we
Right.
saw that they were not releasing everything, but they give us a little inside scoop. So you want to befriend people because they can give you such incredible information that helps you better strategize. So you don't want to go in there and be their enemy. Now, granted, there is a strategy if you're trying to be their friends and they ignore you, then you play good cop, bad cop, where you are the good cop, give them very good, trusted information that makes them have have better decision making. Then you have the other individuals who are keeping the heat on them and putting the fire to their feet. And so you kind of build this pressure cooker, and that's the strategy you do kind of later on if you can't get them on your side and assist you. So there's a lot of things you can do, but truly, folks, if you're especially in any area where these data centers are popping up, there's a certain geography, then you really want to get ahead of this and start it. And if it starts to roll out and you see an application, I'd start with the public record requests, that FOIA, immediately, and start there too.
We've seen, we have a pushback of the week on the Solaire report, and we're going to have in our news trends and stories, we're going to have a big section on pushback, but we've seen a lot of communities really stop these data centers. It's happening. So don't say you can't do it, you can.
There's been a lot of action on the part of people in different parts of the country to oppose the things that are making it possible to have these data centers. And they eat up electricity and water, and people don't see it until, I mean, what is the priority if there isn't enough water? Whose water is going to be cut off? Is it going to be cut off at the data center, or is it going to be cut off to your house? And we had a story at Solari in our Tech Corner group where Kyle Bass in Texas was pumping all this water, because in Texas, whoever has the biggest pump gets the water. And the idea is that there probably is a plan through his company to sell that water that he can pump out of the aquifer. And so understanding how things work through the water company and the electric company, and there have been people filing FOIAs to find out, when there's an application by Google or Amazon or whatever for this, they've been trying to find out the information about how much of the resources would be used. And there have been efforts to block that information, with the big companies saying, well, this is private information, commercial information, and some of the judges have said that's BS. If you're doing things through the local water company that are going to affect the citizens, then the citizens have a right to that.
Right.
But there also are NDAA agreements that are being signed to prevent the disclosure of information about what the contracts are that they're putting together. NDAA meaning a non-disclosure agreement. So, if a Port Authority has the control, this happened in Middletown, Ohio. Port Authority has control over the land where they want to put a data center, and the Port Authority maybe signs an agreement, or whoever is the contracting party signs an agreement not to disclose the information. And in the case of Middletown, Ohio, the Port Authority had not signed the NDA. It was a different entity, and they went to court, and the Port Authority said, we didn't we didn't sign an NDAA, and they did disclose the information. But be very aware that there are a lot of secret plans, and it's sort of too late. If the project is ready to break ground, it's kind of late to find out what's going on.
So how do we, so Carolyn and I, for many decades, have tried to encourage people to get interested in what's happening in their government and state and local, and they instead watch sort of the entertainment of the federal elections. But when they cover the federal elections, they're not really engaged in the substance of what's happening, with the FCC or what's happening in the House Energy Committee. How do we get people interested in what's going on in their state and local government? Because that's where we're losing the war.
Well, I think people, first of all, when I explain to people, for instance, what's going on with the FCC and Congress, and I tell them about the court case and where we are today and what we're being threatened with, I'm actually seeing people getting riled. I'm actually seeing people like, wait, what's going on? So the most important thing right now for all of us to do is talk to everyone you know, to spread this information, because when people find out, and then let the cards fall where they may, but right now the most important thing is to tell people about the FCC proposed rule changes, how Congress came in to mirror what they're doing, how this is all about that digital prison, and there was a court case FCC ignored, and let people know. And that is, I mean, right now, I started 2 days ago, to pack the chambers in City Hall, and 2 days ago. And in 48 hours, after explaining to people what's going on, those chambers are going to be packed.
Right.
And the reason why is because we informed people. And once we informed them what was going on, they're like, hell no, hell no. So when you sit there and go, people aren't doing anything, it's because they don't know what's going on.
Right.
When you explain this, it is so egregious. It is so threatening.
So,
it set a fire.
So part of the reason this is so egregious is if you look at what they're doing on local infrastructure and then with the digital ID and programmable money, that will literally turn over control of taxation and fiscal policy to the bankers. The bankers will control what taxes get collected, how they get collected, and they will literally be able to replace the legislature at the state, local, and federal level. All of these legislators are basically promoting and voting for the end of their existence.
That's correct. That's how bad it is.
Right.
They're voting for the destruction of local government as we know it through these regulation changes and bills. I've never seen anything like it ever.
Right. They're switching control of our governance entirely to the bankers. The bankers aren't just going to control monetary policy, they're going to control fiscal policy.
Big industry. Yes, that's correct.
Right. Right.
Well, and there are also things happening at the local level. We have a section of our website about the Flock cameras. Now, Flock is a company that is the big license plate reader company, and a lot of police departments are signing contracts, and they're maybe having a contract for just under the amount that has to be approved by city council. And so the city council may not even know that they're entering into these contracts. And there's a Flock camera right up the street from me, right where there is a public grade school and a cell tower. But this happens to be an area that people care about. And there are people all over the country going to their city council meetings and, getting the city councils and whatever the governing body is to cancel these contracts. So, if people really care about having their license plates read, and a lot of that has to do with whether they get a speeding ticket or something like that. If that's really what they care about, maybe that is the way you can get people interested in the whole control grid, by coming through something they care about, like the Flock cameras, and getting them to become active in that area.
The surveillance is so ubiquitous. It's not only the Flock cameras, which people assume goes to the law enforcement. It actually goes to, a third party essentially, and they make that data available to whoever wants to purchase it. It's that bad. It's not going to your law enforcement. They have to actually apply for a certain person or a certain camera to get the data.
Right. And they're also in some cities getting people to sign up with the local police department to give the police department direct access to your Ring cameras.
Right. So
oh my God.
Grass Valley next door has a contract with Ring cameras, and if they want to, they can say, we want this information. Ring cameras are now going to go for biometrics. They're going to start collecting your biometrics, and anytime you're walking in and out of your door, you have a conversation, you're sitting on the porch, you're getting packages coming and going, that is all recorded, the audio and everything, and it is stored. It is stored somewhere in perpetuity. The other thing that people don't realize, and I learned this back in 2016 when I got back on the city council meeting, not only are they doing this with the Flock cameras and Ring cameras, but Waste Management has what's called the third eye camera system, not only in the cab of the truck, but out on the front of the truck, that surveils and collects all the data of where the cars are parked in the streets and the driveways, but even more so. And they have this in their privacy, policy, but it's just, they just kind of go over it like, oh, it's no big deal. They have the third eye camera system that is collecting all of your garbage. So your bills, your medications, do you drink, what do you eat, all these different things, your publications, your reading. They actually have this highly sophisticated camera system that collects all of your garbage and all your recyclables, and that is also stored away. And when I asked Waste Management, do you sell the data? They're like, oh no, we wouldn't. I found out the next day that many years ago in Ogden, Utah, with Waste Management and NSA, they had a pilot program using Waste Management to collect garbage data. When I called Waste Management 3 different times, I got 3 different answers. And ultimately the answer I got was, lady, when you put your garbage into our bins, that becomes our property and we can do whatever we want. So the level of surveillance, folks, is far worse than people realize.
So I just want to brag. In Hickory Valley, Tennessee, when I first moved there, we had just fired, I think it was Waste Management, but the big corporate garbage collector, and inspired a local couple that needed a job to instead collect up all our garbage and take it to the city dump. So I recommend that too. I mean, get these people out of your life, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there in Cincinnati, I just heard an interview on the local radio station about how our police department has a whole fleet of what are those things called that you can control that fly around and take pictures of everything?
Drones.
Drones, right. They just have purchased a huge number of drones that are flying around taking pictures of everything.
Well,
Everything is an extraction.
Pacific Gas and Electric is doing the same thing. PG&E, like, we're all just checking out your lines. We also have our local law enforcement, as you said. And by the way, I accidentally stepped into a meeting years ago. They didn't know I was there with the person speaking. And he says, oh yeah, by the way, these drones can carry a heavy payload. I'm like, well, that's a bit disturbing. Do you mean weapons? They didn't know I was in the room and I heard that. And so you have that, and then you have, your PG&E, let's see, law enforcement, and then of course you just have all this other type of surveillance. So, oh, I know, it's insurance companies. So insurance companies are now flying over their customers' homes, and they're videotaping and photographing everything on your property.
Wow.
I can't get over the trash story about our trash bin. I mean, I just can't get over
I
that.
think there are court cases that hold that what you put in your trash, you don't have you don't have an expectation of privacy, so they don't need a warrant or anything like that.
So the Carpenter case, though, says you do have an expectation of privacy even if you're out and about, if you're in public.
That court case was like, for instance, like private eyes and law enforcement would look in bins. And those cases were when it was just that. But now it's so egregious. It's videotaping every single speck of trash that is thrown out. And that's a whole other level. That's not just like,
I just have to bring it up again because I'm in this business. If you look at everybody's IRA and 401k, they are financing this, okay? I'm not financing this. Carolyn is not financing this, but most of the audiences I speak to, they are going to work and implementing this. They are shopping with the companies doing this, and their 401ks and IRAs that are invested in the companies doing this. And what they tell me is, well, it makes me money. Okay, so we have to decide whether or not. So I want to bring something up for New Year's resolution this year. What we did at Solari is we took an article that we've published many times called Coming Clean, and we updated it dramatically, and now we're printing it in hard copy. It's up in PDF at the website, and I think, Lou, I sent you the link. It's in the last section. And I have to tell you, the one thing that everyone can do is go through their life and get the bad guys out, get them out of their minds, get them out of your pocketbook, get them out of your investments, get them out of your savings, just get them out of your life. And we call the process Coming Clean. And what you'll find is the quality of your life improves enormously, literally, energetically, the more you separate from these folks. But I would encourage you for New Year's resolution, go through Coming Clean and identify, back to your SWOT, identify all the opportunities you have to literally make a change in your life that makes a change more broadly. Because if millions of people come clean and get these guys out, I mean, I come back to Lysistrata. So Renata, maybe you want to explain to the audience the Lysistrata story. They may not know that, but
it's a famous, famous story of Lysistrata, who basically stopped having sex with her husband because they kept warring, and she got all the other women to also stop having sex with their men and their husbands and lovers until they stopped the wars. I mean, I think ultimately this is to save their young boys, and sons from going off to war. So women, I mean, maybe it's time to pull a Lysistrata. I don't know. We have a lot more power than we realize. And
yeah, but I think one of the greatest political tactics ever is shunning and boycotting. And, I mean, I remember during the financial crisis I'd worked at Goldman Sachs as a summer. And so I was eligible to get an email and get their research. And during the financial crisis, I said, I don't want an association with you. Take me out of your email system. I don't want your research. I don't trust a word you say. Get me out, Now imagine if millions of people had done that. Imagine if every time one of these folks walked down the street, everybody walked away and said, I don't want to be associated with them. Yeah, so it's time to shun people.
Well, it's time to shun people. It's time to call them out. And also, this is, as we've talked about many times, we're no longer in the kinetic warfare, right? It's a silent warfare. It's invisible. And we're not gonna win this on the streets having protests. Really, those days are over. I mean, I'd love to go out there and do it. I've done it. I've been to Occupy Wall Street. I've been to Standing Rock. I've done that. But that's not going to be the win. The win is extracting this beast from your life. And as we're talking about, it's how
Stop giving it energy. Stop feeding it.
Take the wind out of the sails, folks. And it's very empowering. You feel really empowered. And let me tell you, you do that and you're modeling for others, because there's something I've learned over the years is that one of the reasons why we're doing our event tonight at City Hall is I know as an elected official, the most powerful thing I can do is model what I'm talking about. Model the example. And most elected officials don't do that. So we're doing this tonight to model for other cities and counties to do the same. As an individual, you can model the changes you want to see in the world, and you do it by just that, extracting yourself from the beast that wants to enslave you. And you just go one step at a time. It's not that difficult. And in fact, it's invigorating. You feel empowered. You don't feel like a sitting duck. So I'm really, let 2026 also be the year of extraction, where you extract these tentacles from your life and you breathe free again.
Right. So we only have a little bit of time. I want to mention also the Solari holiday greeting, because it links to all sorts of wonderful things about our advice on gifts and donations, including CHD.TV. Let me just make a pitch for donating to CHD.TV. And I'll give you a little anticipation next week. I think our pushback of the week is the Autism Trust, which is another thing that we strongly recommend. So check out the holidays greetings. We have lots of movies and other things for the holidays. And I bring this up because Carolyn and Renette will be back with you next week, but I won't. So I'm signing off for 2025 with Financial Rebellion. And I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, because Christmas is the celebration of the coming of the Covenant of Grace. So I just think we need to invite grace into our lives and understand that grace is there, which means, we can turn this around. So may your season be enchanted with grace. And I want to thank everybody for a great year on Financial Rebellion. And as I said, the team will be back without me next week. And so, guys, I can't thank you enough, Renette, for everything you're doing. Have a wonderful time at the City Council tonight. Just knock them alive. Don't knock them dead,
right.
Knock them alive. Wake up.
Thank you.
Catherine, thank you for everything that you do for us as well. So we hope you have a very Merry Christmas. But 2026 is going to be a fantastic year. I know it.
Rock and roll.
We have never been stronger. Our movement's been bigger and bigger. We're united across all fronts. So yeah, power to the people. All right. Well, Renette, as always, thank you so much. Can't wait to see you next week. And I just want to say, Renette, I wish you'd been my teacher when I was at school, because I might have done a bit better at school, because you're just so easy to listen to.
Well, I try to talk slowly. That's not easy for me, but I enjoy speaking to people who are interested. So you ladies are extraordinary, and you're heroes and warriors. So I'm really, really grateful for all three of you.
All right. Well, Thank you. And I know you have to get up very early. So to our viewers, yes, Renette, myself, and Carolyn will be back next week. But Catherine, we will see you in 2026. We love you and thank you for everything you do for us.
Thank you. Pray big.
Very big.
Big.
We are live. Right, tell everyone your name, please.
My name is Robin.
Robin. All right, you had a terrible experience in a Seattle hospital. Tell us what happened.
Well, my husband had been sick for 2 weeks and we were taking care of him at home. I was taking care of him at home and he wasn't getting better. And we were getting a little bit afraid because he's normally a very healthy person. So he called his doctor in Seattle, people who already knew him and knew all of his background, and they said, come in tomorrow for blood work. Come in and we'll evaluate your blood. And so he did that and then he went home, and then the next morning they called and they said, you need to go to the emergency right away. So they found something was bad in his blood. And we didn't feel that he had COVID. He had tested himself 3 times in 2 weeks, and he didn't have COVID.
And he didn't take the shot.
And we are not vaccinated. My whole family is not vaccinated. So on our way to the ER, we had a care and consent form that we wanted to get notarized before we even went there, because we were pretty disappointed that he was so sick that we felt we needed to go to the hospital. And when we got there, well, I back up. Okay, they told him on the phone, the nurse at his hospital told him, have your wife drop you off at the door of the emergency. She may not go into the hospital. And that seemed really like an alarm to me. So we drove to Seattle and I parked the car in the emergency drop-off area and we both went in together. And immediately, right at the front where you check in, they said, you've got COVID. They kept telling him over and over again, you've got COVID. And he told them, no, I don't have COVID. I've tested myself. I do not have COVID. And each different person that came to ask him questions and evaluate and take down all the information on him, at least 5 different people out of nowhere said, you've got COVID. And then they finally called him to the back to do blood work, and I was allowed to go back with him, and he was very, very weak. He had barely slept in 2 weeks' time, and I really wanted to stick with him to make sure nothing unusual would happen. But then I realized I needed to move my car because I parked it in the emergency drop-off area. So I moved my car, came back in about 15 minutes later, and they would not let me back in. At the desk, at the front desk of the ER, they said, no, you cannot go in. He has COVID. He has COVID. And I said, no, he does not have COVID. And they said, okay, well, wait out in the front, and now we're going to give him a COVID test. And so I waited and waited, and then about 15 minutes later, somebody came and they told me, yeah, he does not have COVID. You can come in. And that was the beginning of our hospital experience. And as it turned out, he had sepsis and he needed a heart surgery. So he was hospitalized for over a month, and they did treat him, and it had a wonderful outcome, thank goodness. But one last thing was that when we were in the hospital, after he was admitted, a couple days in, a nurse said, oh, I recognize your name. I was told to prepare a COVID room for you. And I found that to be very alarming, because I feel like it was a very close call, and if I would have just dropped him off, I just don't know what could have happened. I'm really thankful that we had some divine help and guidance that we were able to get through this. but I feel it's an important story because this was in about May of 2023, not in the middle of the pandemic, but at the ending of the height of it. And those hospital
They're still doing it.
protocols are real. Those hospital protocols are still happening, I believe. So that's my story.
Well, thank you for telling us, and you're right, we need to stay, but if we have to go to hospital, you have to stay with your loved ones.
Yes, I drove over 3,000 miles just visiting him while he was in the hospital and tried to be there as much as I could because I did not trust and still don't even know. And I tried to get him unvaccinated blood and they would not accept that. So I did everything I could.
Yes, you did everything. You did a lot. You saved your husband. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for all your work.
This and all CHD TV programming is made possible by generous support from viewers like you. Please consider making a contribution today to keep our programming going strong. Thank you.